Welcome to the Dreamwork Summit, where Dreamwork experts, renowned psychology professionals, and brilliant authors will help you tap into the soul-guided healing wisdom and creativity within your dreams. Share this event with your friends and family, and come join us on Facebook at the Shift Network. And now your host, Kimberly Mascaro, Ph.D.
Welcome, everyone. We're so glad that you're joining us. I'm very excited to introduce our special guest today, Dr. Angel Morgan. Angel Morgan is president of the International Association for the Study of Dreams and the founder of Dreambridge. She is adjunct professor in the Institute of Transpersonal Psychology at Sophia University and author of The Alpha Bliss of Myths and Dreamer's Powerful Tiger, a new lucid dreaming classic for children and parents of the 21st century. Welcome, Dr. Angel Morgan. It's really good to have you here today.
Thank you, Kim.
So I'm really looking forward to our conversation today because you know so much about dream arts and theater. And I just want to ask you, for our first question, what are dream arts and how do they apply to theater arts?
Yes, thank you so much. I'm really happy that you asked me to talk about this because this is one of my most favorite things in relation to dream work. So dream arts, when I define dream arts, I tend to use the word Dreambridge. And to Dreambridge is to consciously transform an experience during sleep into a creative form of expression that can be shared with other people in the waking life world. So in my research studying the link between dreams and creativity, I discovered that there are 3 sublinks to this connection. And this is kind of interesting. So we think of dreams moving toward creativity. Creative, they get inspiration from a dream, and then they do something artistic with it. So that's one sublink of the link between dreams and creativity. And then there's creativity moving toward dreaming. So, the creative energy moving toward the dream itself. And then the third sublink is a conversation back and forth between dreams and creativity. And so when I talk about that, it helps ground the direction in which the energy is flowing with dream arts. So with theater arts and dream arts, we're looking at dreams moving toward creativity and specifically dreams moving toward theater, right? And there are so many different domains within the field of theater, right? We've got comedies and tragedies and sound design and makeup and dance and performance art, and it goes on and on and on, acting, directing, of course. All of these modes of theater arts that can find inspiration from dreams to feed the creative work, right? So that's kind of the mainstream way of looking at that flow from dream to creativity. But looking at it the other direction, when you flip it around, how do theater arts show up in dreams? And kind of the most popular or well-known way that happens is with something called the actor's nightmare. So a lot of people have had the actor's nightmare, and Christopher Durang wrote a play about it in 1983, and it's kind of a thing where most people, and a lot of people who aren't even actors, have this actor's nightmare where you're on stage in the dream and you forget your lines, or you're not wearing your costume, or you were supposed to write the play but you didn't write the play, or you're moving toward the stage backstage and you can't find your way there. So it's kind of an anxiety dream of not being able to perform. So that's a very common one for actors, directors, writers, anyone involved in theater. But also people who are involved in theater, kind of like anyone who has day residue in their dreams from their work, they're going to be dreaming about theater. So, people will dream about a play they're working on, or something that is happening in daily life will make its way into the dream. And then there's that wonderful conversation, the back and forth between dreams and creativity. So the best way to describe that is with the term dream incubation. And dream incubation is something that a lot of dream workers are familiar with already. Basically asking your dream to help you solve a problem, or asking your dream to work out something in your artistic life in this case. So for example, an actor might be preparing for a role, and she writes a letter to herself before she goes to sleep saying, I'd really love to have some insights into the emotional life of my character so that when I wake up, I can kind of take that dream knowledge. But that's a conversation that goes back and forth. And some people, lucid dreamers in particular, who work in theater, can incubate a dream where they say, I want to rehearse, I want to practice my part. And this isn't just with acting, this is all kinds of theatrical performance. Musicians have practiced an instrument over and over and over and over in their lucid dreams so that when they wake up, they know the passage and it's really clear. So that's lucid dreamers, but you don't have to be lucid to do this. You can just simply be asleep having a dream, and then you wake up and you weren't lucid at all, but you think, oh, I just discovered something important about my character that I'm playing. So there's that conversation that can go on. All right, so taking that back to more of a psychological perspective instead of an artistic perspective, there's Gestalt psychology, and Fritz Perls taught that Gestalt dream work, when acting out the dream, in doing that, we assimilate alienated parts of ourselves and become more whole. And he was famous for doing that at SLN, right, with putting individuals on the hot seat. So in this case, with Gestalt dream work, it's more of a one-on-one, it's an individual, it's a one person going into all the different elements of their dream. And then there's dream psychodrama, which is inspired by Moreno's Psychodrama. And so it's taking a dream and acting it out in a group, where different people play the different characters. And then there's improv in theater. So what I do is I combine all of these kind of ideas into what I call dream drama. And so there's the element of the Gestalt, but it's in a group, like in the psychodrama. And there's an improvisational element to it, because sometimes a dream will change. And that's part of what I'm going to describe later, I think, is how I go ahead and do that. So let's see. Shall I keep going? I mean, I could talk more. Let's see.
Well, you are, of course, welcome to tell us more about the theater arts. All I can say so far is I want to come over and play. I'm ready to come over and play. But yes, you could tell us more about that in general, because this is so fun. And in a moment when you're ready, I'm remembering a great time I had in Ashland, Oregon, not too long ago. So when you feel ready, I'd love for you to describe that IESD regional, that dream drama workshop that I attended with you. That was so much fun. And so I'd like you to bring that in as well. But
Okay.
Continue to share with us as much as you like about Dream Theater.
Okay. Okay. There's one example that I like to give from Improvisational Dream Theater, which is a course that I teach to young people. I work with all ages. So there's this one dream I love to tell because it's a great example of the dream drama that I do. And we'll go more specifically into what happened in Ashland later. But this dream is from a 13-year-old girl who I call Ruby. And in her dream, she's in a green room with a love seat and coffee table. And she's being chased around the furniture by a dragon and a little trollish looking person. And they keep running around in circles and circles, and she's screaming for help, right? So what I did was I asked her to cast, is she going to be playing herself, or does she want someone else to play herself? That's the first thing. Okay. So she cast herself as herself, a boy as the love seat, me as the coffee table. another boy is the dragon and a girl is the troll. And so we acted out the dream, just as described. And then afterward, I asked her how she felt. And she said, I feel scared. I feel helpless. I feel silly. And so I said, well, what would happen if you turned around and faced them? And she said, I don't know. They might eat me. And I said, okay, well, do you want me to help you? And she said, you're a coffee table. And I said, yes, but in dreams, even coffee tables can help you. So do you want me to? And she said, yes. So we turned around and we started running the other way, running after them. And then they, the dragon and the troll, yelled, help, don't get us. And then Ruby yells at them, stop, we're not going to hurt you. And then, so it turned around and then we all laughed and fell to the floor. And she says, what do I do now that, what happens now? And I said, well, would you like to offer your hand to them in friendship? And they can be your allies now. And that's what she did. And so that's an example of one dream going through this process of starting with the dream and then making an alteration at the end based on how she feels. So I'll talk more about that when we get to the other. Actually, we could probably go into that next, what happened in Ashland. Do you want to ask me that again? Or okay.
Yeah, I would like to ask you more about that. Thinking of what you just described, though, about this process with this child dreamer. And it sounds like through dream theater, it's another avenue of reworking the dream. Would you say that another way of almost doing a type of dream reentry, if you will?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any comments about that?
Yes, there are so many different methods of dream work that overlap a little bit, right? So yes, there's an element of dream reentry to dream drama. You could also connect what I just described to imagery rehearsal therapy, which is something that people with PTSD nightmares, it's a method used with that. So in the sense that with imagery rehearsal therapy, there's a rewriting of the script of what happens with a nightmare. So in dream drama, they're not always nightmares. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. But the idea is always to check in with the dreamer and how they're feeling and if they feel that the work is done or if there's more to do and all of that. So there's a rewriting, and that I call that connected to improvisational theater. But there's a lot of overlap, you're right, with therapeutic dream work, with ways of working through reworking dreams. This is definitely, that one was scary for her when she had the dream, but she didn't wake up in a fright. It was just something that she remembered. So, if we want to define it as a nightmare or not, but the feeling that she had was scared, helpless, silly, right? It wasn't empowering. So the idea of the dream drama is to find a way to work it through to a place where the dreamer is feeling empowered by the end.
That's such a cool process and a lot of fun too. So yeah, let's talk about the IASD regional dream drama workshop that I attended in Ashland, Oregon a while back. That was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot from it too. Could you just describe that process for our listeners today?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you so much. That was a Theater Dreams and Art regional for the IASD in Ashland, Oregon last year. And it was a really good time, I agree. So one of the things that we did at the beginning of the weekend is something that is really important for all dream workers to do at the beginning of any session, in my opinion, and that is to go over ethics and confidentiality at the very beginning. So at the beginning of that weekend, one of the things that we did is we read through the IASD Dreamwork ethics statement. And so basically, the IASD Dreamwork ethics statement was developed in 1997, and it's used as the gold standard for Dreamwork worldwide. And so what I've done on my website, and what a lot of Dreamworkers do on their websites, is they adopt it and they, make it something that they are aware of. They make it clear that it's something that they're aware of. And then the second thing is to talk about confidentiality. And there are two ways of going about that. And the first one is strict confidentiality, and we all know what that means. And then the second one is Jeremy Taylor's version, which is where it's okay to talk about what happened with the dream work if somebody feels compelled to share, but they do not talk about the name of the person. So it remains anonymous. And that way, if the group agrees, so that it's always the dream worker checks in with the group. Do we need strict confidentiality, or can we talk about what happened here without saying who the dreamer was? And is that okay? So I just wanted to say before we talk about what happened in Ashland that I did check in, and the whole room said, we're fine with that it's okay to talk about what happened without saying names. So if in our conversation now, we want to remember a couple of things that happened that we got that approval. All right, so then the dream drama exercise, the way it starts is I have this whiteboard. I have some kind of a whiteboard that I bring in or into the room, and I write down 3 things. The first is the setting. So where is the dream? What is the setting? And I'm using theatrical terms for the dream, right? Oh, and also, right, Carl Jung said that dreams are theater, and Shakespeare said that life is theater. So that's, all right. Then the characters, who is there in your dream? So the person who's volunteered to do their dream in the exercise answers where it is and who is there. And then the third one is the story. What happens? So I'm writing down on the whiteboard some keywords, just some keywords so we get the chronology of what happens. So we know where it is, who is there, what happens. Then the dreamer casts the characters with the people who are in the workshop. And this is where kind of some ideas around lucid dreaming and lucid dreaming perspectives as they relate to dream drama come in. Because in lucid dreaming, something that Stephen LaBerge differentiated was the actor and the observer, right? So in non-lucid dreams, we tend to be in the role of the actor, where we experience ourselves in the dream. And then he says the observer is more of a witnessing consciousness, where the dream is in me, is kind of the experience. So lucid dreaming is kind of in between the two, and you can go back and forth, being in the actor or being the witnesser. So what I do is I give whoever the dreamer is, lucid dreaming or not, this is just a kind of a comparison, but I give them the choice that they can be themselves, they can play the part of themselves, or they can step back and cast someone else as them and watch them and witness the whole dream. And we saw both of that, right, in the workshop. So that led to some really interesting differentiations, because first, for example, there was one young man who shared a dream. I don't know if you recall this, but he shared a dream about his mother who was not attending to his needs when he was 5, a 5-year-old boy. This was actually a dream he had had when he was 5, and his mother wasn't available for him. And he wanted to play himself, and so he did. He played himself. And so my role, and this is where gets interesting, the dreamer is always the director. The dreamer is the one who casts everyone. The dreamer is telling them where the dream went and what to do. And so what is my role? I'm holding space for the director, the dreamer. I'm holding space for the whole thing. It's like I've got my arms around the room. And I'm also kind of like an assistant director, because occasionally the director won't know where he wants to go with it. And I'll say, well, why don't you try this? Yeah. So there was a moment when the woman playing his mother wasn't giving him what he needed, and that was the dream. So then I asked him, what would you like her to do? Right? So then he told her what he needed, and then they played that out, and he got his needs met, and it was very beautiful, right? I don't know if you remember that one. It's very powerful. Then there's, in contrast to that, there was a woman who shared a dream that was emotionally very pleasant. And she was in a car, and there was like a deer, a baby deer or something, some little animal, it was very pleasant. And I asked her, is there anything about this dream that you would change? And she said, mm-mm. She was happy with it. She was feeling empowered. So we don't touch those. We let those ones be. And they're still very fun to act out. So whatever comes organically from the dreamer is how it goes.
So can I ask, it sounds like no matter what, the dreamer
Mm-hmm.
gets to decide if they're going to play the role of acting out the dream as they remember it, or observer standing back and having someone else do it while they direct. And that's always a choice. Is that right?
Yes. And when they're playing themselves, they are also directing. So in other words, if they're in it, they can say, stop, okay, wait a minute. No, it wasn't like that. You do this. So both ways, whether they're acting or witnessing, directing, they're always the director, because the dreamer always gets the final say about their dream.
That's right. And sometimes, like you also pointed out, there can be an opportunity for healing or reworking, it sounds like, in the first dream you described. And in the second one, it was just great and lovely the way it was. So why not just kind of re-experience it and leave it be?
Right.
It's really cool. It's a really, really cool process. And I have another question for you regarding the dreamer's powerful tiger. And I know that's the title of your book, but can you tell us all how that applies to theater arts?
Oh, right. Okay. So Dreamer's Powerful Tiger is this book. And this is a book that I wrote and co-illustrated with my daughter. And it's based on over 20 years of work. And so how that is related to theater arts is kind of a fun story. So this book, it's all about dream sharing in community and building lucid dreaming skills with children. And it's my story about theater arts is actually because it's now an audiobook that I read and performed, like voiceover work, which is what we do with audiobooks nowadays. And theater is very collaborative. And I just love that. And I reached out and I collaborated actually with Dana Boulay, who I went to UCLA in the theater, film, and television department as an undergrad. And she produced the audiobook. I took a train to Paris after Rolduc last summer. And in Montreuil, France, she produced the audiobook. And she also composed an all-original soundtrack that goes with it. So I just love that collaborative energy with doing creative work, theatrical work. We were kind of at a crossroad with do I read all the voices, or do we have a child come in, or do we, I ended up doing all the voices because that story lives in me so deeply and for so long. So she said that we should do that, and that's what we did.
Very cool. I ended up getting that book for my nephews. So that was a really nice gift from me, but really from you to them. And, I've always wanted to ask you, what got you into dreams and dreaming in the first place? Were you a dreamer as a child, or was it something else?
Oh, yes. I started dream working at age 4 with my father, who's a psychologist, and was teaching me the Kilton Stewart's Sonoy Dream Theory, which is actually connected to this book. So the whole story of that and my path of dream working has been lifelong, and living lucidly since childhood has been kind of at the center of my development. No matter where life has taken me, 3 careers later, but always the dream work. So, yeah, and I actually studied with Kilton Stewart's widow, Clara Stewart Flagg, for 5 years when I was at UCLA as an undergrad. And that was a very powerful kind of full circle for me at that moment, only at age 18, 19. But to meet Clara and to connect, and all my mentors over the years have made a huge impact on my development and keeping me going with the dream work. Long before I went to Saybrook and studied with Stanley Krippner and developed my career as a dream psychologist and founded Dreambridge, which is really, Dreambridge is really my destiny path. I mean, everything coming together, the arts, the dream work, everything that I've done is a part of Dreambridge. So,
well, you have such a long background in both of these, dream work and theater, and it's how cool to see, you from the age of 4, years and years and years later, now to the president of the biggest professional dream organization of the world, the IASD, or International Association for the Study of Dreams. So it's really, really cool to just see this kind of play out, over the years or decades. And that's really neat. Well, maybe we could just talk about some just general words you might have for people who are just getting into dream work or just starting to be more aware of their dream life. Maybe some younger people watching this that are, wondering if dreams are worth paying attention to, or other people who may be older that just want to now really dedicate time to a deep and meaningful inner life. Well, what can you say to those listeners?
Oh my goodness, Kim. Dreams and dream work. Okay, dreams are important, and people are really starting to catch on now, especially with all the reasons that aren't so great, COVID and such, but people are really catching on. The thing about dreams is that they are authentic. They are truthful. They help us get in touch with our true selves. They help us understand our feelings, how we really feel about whatever is happening in our waking lives. And that's something that a lot of people are detached about. And so, for example, in different forms of therapy, that is one of the things, is to get in touch with your feelings too. And getting into dreams and getting into dream work, learning your own dream language, figuring out different methods and different approaches of working with dreams, whether it's through theater exploration or anything else, lucid dreaming, yoga nidra. So there's so many wonderful ways to get in touch with your most authentic self, and finding more compassion for yourself, more compassion for others, integrating parts of ourselves that we are not in touch with, all of that. It's incredible work. So I would say for young people, Young people tend to naturally appreciate dreams, though. I would say it's older people who maybe have lost touch with who they truly are. And so that it's a wonderful way of finding yourself again, over and over and over. Yeah. And okay, so that's more on a individual level and a development, personal development. And then there's the broader aspect, the more spiritual, connected, finding ways to connect with other dreamers and the rest of the world. And the IASD, as you said, is such an incredible organization where we've met so many dreamers who understand the power of dreaming and understand the beauty of being able to go on adventures in your dreams and incubate dreams and maybe meet up with friends in a dream, or dream for peace, dream for world healing. It's a wonderful way to direct our consciousness in a really, truly beneficial way for not only ourselves, for our communities. So I'm definitely encouraging everybody out there who's watching this to really take a look at your dreams. And obviously one of the first ways of doing that is writing them down and having a dream journal and getting that relationship started, and then making a commitment to maybe working with one a week or however many you're comfortable with, and exploring like this, watching Dreamwork summits and learning about which methods resonate the most and which path you feel is the right one for you next.
Well, Angel, if someone wanted to bring in a theater art type of perspective, let's say, with their dreams, and they're new at this, but maybe they live somewhere where there isn't a dream community, or they don't have friends or family into dreams. Can an individual, or do you have examples of how an individual might be able to do something with their dream, work it in a way that applies to theater arts, from just a kind of a one-on-one or me, myself, and I perspective?
Yes, I mean, there are exercises and things that you can do that I teach. So, I mean, I would, first off, shameless self-plug here, but I would direct people to the dreambridge.com and look at the type of courses and classes and workshops that I teach, because I do them in physical space, but this year hasn't been conducive for that. So I've been doing more and more and more on Zoom. So there are ways to gather in groups on Zoom and do dream drama, actually. And it's fun. It's different. I was resistant to it at first, but necessity leads to invention and creativity. And so there's that. Theater does tend to be a social activity, and it usually requires two or more people, usually. But then let's see, there's the monologue. So I would say if somebody wants to work through a dream on their own, they could write a monologue inspired by their dream, or a way of telling the dream in a different way. So yeah, use your creativity. And again, you could also email me, angel@thedreambridge.com, and we can have a conversation about what it is you're looking for in regards to dream work with theater arts.
Well, this is so cool to hear that an online community is taking place for this type of thing now, because with sheltering in place, we have less choices to do these group activities, of course. And then, there's always people who just might not have, maybe they move somewhere new or just don't have access to others that are interested. But I hear what you said, find at least one person. If you can find at least one person, you're golden. And then you can get online to do some of the stuff, which to me brings me a lot of hope, because we, of course, a lot of us are feeling incredibly isolated, and to know that we can still do the things we love and grow in these different, vast ways, that we can a Zoom group or some type of online group can exist for us.
Absolutely.
So we can find you, as you said, at the dreambridge.com and also at asdreams.org because you're the current president. And are those the best two ways to reach you?
Yes, those two websites. And again, if you would like to email me, my email address is also on thedreambridge.com, angel@thedreambridge.com.
Well, excellent. It's been fun talking to you today, and I just love the creative aspect of Dreamwork. It's such a good time, and when I've been involved in it, it makes memories that I don't easily forget. They stick around. They're good, powerful memories. So, any final words before we go, before we wrap up?
Yes, I'm so glad you said that, because you're reminding me that I wanted to ask you what you remembered from the workshop that was memorable. Was there something that you wanted to share that you, anonymously, not naming any names?
Well, then I'll keep it very brief, and let me say it was lovely to witness. And in one dream I participated, and there was so much laughter. We were all having a really good time. So that I'll keep it brief there. But it was a really cool collaboration, and it was an honor to be a part of someone else's dream.
Yes, I always feel that way every single time. It's such an honor. Something really opens up, and you can just feel there's something larger than ourselves happening. It's beautiful. Thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you for being with me today and sharing all of your experience. So again, I just formally thank you, Angel, and have a good rest of your day. And I know that our listeners took a lot from this, so I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you for joining us for the Dreamwork Summit, brought to you by the Shift Network. To learn more, visit thedreamworksummit.com. To join our global community of people awakening to their divine humanity and taking inspired action, visit theshiftnetwork.com. Thank you again for gathering with us and for sharing this healing path with your friends and family.